Show me the money. That's his masterstroke. His questioners are nervous now. I told you this would happen, they start saying to each other. But they can't deny that they have it. So one of them produces a coin, a denarius. Whose face is this? He asks them. And their faces turn red as a radish. You can just see them squirming. Come on. You know who it is. It's Caesar. But then they start to wonder, is he actually going to answer the question and tell us whether we should pay taxes or not? Or is he just going to judge us for carrying the emperor's image around? But he does answer the question. Give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and give to God what is God's. Drop mic. Jesus' audience is flabbergasted. But why, you might ask? It's true, we've heard this saying of Jesus our entire lives. We were never sure what it meant exactly, but it didn't seem all that earth-shattering. It almost seemed too obvious to be worth saying. Give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and give to God what is God's. Sure. In asking Jesus this question, the Pharisees were trying to excuse themselves from paying their way in the very system that they themselves were benefiting from. On the basis of their spiritual purity, they wanted an excuse to pay 0% of Caesar's money back to him. But if I hear Jesus correctly, I hear him saying that all of Caesar's coins belong to Caesar. Not 10% or 25%, 100%. Give all of it to Caesar, and what will you have left? Only yourself. Not a coin that bears a human's image, but a human being that bears God's own image. So give to God what is God's. Jesus is reminding the Pharisees in a very confrontational way that there is a different system at play here. And it's the intersection between these two systems that made Jesus' political context such a tinderbox. So let's take a look at that other system by backing up to this morning's Old Testament passage, and then backing up a little further still to the passage right before it. Because, to be honest, it has one of the most tragically funny conversations in Scripture. Now, I wish I had a partner to act this out with, but I don't, so bear with me here. God and Moses are at the top of Mount Sinai, and God says to Moses, "Get down there, because your people, whom you brought out of Egypt, have disobeyed me. Now leave me alone so I can destroy them and start over with you." And Moses replies, "Don't do this to your people whom you brought out of Egypt. Remember? Think what the Egyptians will say. Don't be angry. Let me be the angry one. I'll go down there. I'll smash the tablets, and I'll grind up the gold and make them drink it." Now God agrees, so Moses goes down the mountain, talks to Aaron and the people. And at this point it gets a little less funny because God and Moses have a bunch of people kill each other. Then Moses goes back up the mountain and pleads, "God, forgive us." God says, "We'll see. First, here's a plague. But then I am out of here because you might make me so mad that I murder you all. Here's an angel to lead you instead. Now go to your room until I decide what to do with you." Now this all sounds really irreverent, as if I'm cutting God down to size. But if you read Exodus 32 and 33, you'll see what I mean. Most of it is just shocking. What kind of God is this? We thought God was supposed to be above that kind of petty anger. And why is God so easily swayed by Moses' arguments? Arguments like, remember your promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. As if God says, oh yeah, the patriarchs. Good point, Moses. I mean, what? But the plain fact is, which comes from the verse right before our passage today, is that Moses spoke with God face to face, as one speaks with a friend. God's presence remained in the pillar of cloud, and Moses couldn't enter in until God called him. But when God did call him, he went in and spoke with God like a friend. Now, sometimes friendships have to sort through some trauma together. And that appears to be what's happening in Exodus 33. Let's think about this pastorally for a minute. At the top of that mountain, as they wrestled with the golden calf incident, Moses and God both felt betrayed and alone. They had both entered into this agreement with Israel with some sense of hope. God had agreed to take this sapling of a nation on and shape it into something to be proud of. And Moses had agreed, against absolutely every objection, to leave his literal sheep behind and embark on what was essentially a suicide mission. Both Moses and God were taking huge risks, but they wanted to do it together. They each expressed extreme reluctance to let go of the other. Now, it's worth noting that none of this came easy to Moses. He wasn't just God's golden boy. He pushed hard for the privilege. We see Moses in the first half of the passage this morning, going back and forth with God, trying to confirm that he really did have God's favor, and that Israel really was being set apart from all other nations. God is confirming it, but not very convincingly. So Moses gets fed up and essentially replies, okay, prove it. Show me the money. Or more accurately, show me your glory. Now the Hebrew word can also mean, show me your face. Moses is tired of addressing a shadowy spirit hiding inside of a cloud. And he knows that only a truly chosen individual would get to see God's face. Years ago, Jerry Seinfeld had a bit about maximum strength medications. Everybody wants the maximum, he says. Just figure out what'll kill me, then back it off a little. This is exactly what God does for Moses. To show Moses the face of God would kill him. So God covers him with God's hand, then allows him to see God's back. That's maximum strength. And it was enough to change Moses forever. He didn't quite see God's face, but his own face never looked the same afterward. There's a name for this kind of watershed moment in the Bible, when God makes a commitment to a person or to a people. It's called covenant. And I'd like to say that our religion, Christianity, is always a vehicle of covenant, bringing us closer every day to God's promises, and better still, to God's own presence. But I'm afraid it may not be true. Often, I feel Christianity trying to push God further away from us, further above us. Perhaps to make room for human authority. I don't know. But meanwhile, I see Scripture pulling God toward us. In some cases, even making a fool out of God, to show us how much God desires to draw near. Or did you think the incarnation was the first time in history God was willing to be humiliated? As I suggested before, In these scriptures, we can see two systems at play. Two systems competing in the minds and hearts of the Pharisees, plying Jesus with all these questions. One we'll call economy, and the other we're calling covenant. The latter is the one they profess, the one they wear on their sleeve. But the former system, that idol economy, mammon, gold and silver, that's the one that actually runs their lives. They came to Jesus seeking justification for their choices, and Jesus, as he so often does, flipped the question over to show them what was really underneath, the true power governing their lives. We see Moses, in his turn, going exactly the opposite way, running from the precious metals and into the presence of God. And this is where God offers that other system. God comes out of the cloud and offers covenant, intimacy, relationship. Now, Moses was special, of course, but he was not the only one created in the image of God. I was created in the image of God. You were created in the image of God. But why? I believe God made you and me this way so that God could speak with us face to face, as one speaks with a friend. I know right now it feels like we're walking around in a fog. Nothing is clear. Nothing makes sense anymore. Every bit of certainty we used to feel about the future is now a cloudy haze. It's a very lonely feeling. But I want to say this. God is there inside that cloud, calling you in. If you don't believe me, ask God to show you.